Hey guys, and welcome to exam objective 1.2. This time we're going to be having a look at everything involved in this exam objective to help you pass your A+ 1202 exam. We're going to be looking at the different boot methods. We're going to be looking at the different types of installations you need to know about. What is partitioning? What are the two different types of partitioning that you need to know about? What does it mean to format a drive? What are the different types of drive formatting as well? I'm going to get into that a little bit. What considerations do you need to have when you're upgrading? We're going to talk about all of these. And finally, what does it mean by feature updates and product life cycle? By the end of this video, you're going to know everything you need to know about all of this. And as always, throughout it, I'm going to give you those practice questions after each dot point so you have a chance to test your knowledge and really solidify it in your brain. Let's go ahead and get to it with the first dot point. Right after, almost forgot to let you know that if you're new here, my name is Matt and I help people pass their A+ Core 1 and Core 2 certifications. This person says my notes have helped them pass their test. This person says because of me they passed and they're moving on to their Network Plus. This one says they passed their Core 1 and now they're moving on to their Core 2 and they're thanking me for my help. I also received this fantastic email. This person says that they're glad they found their channel because they've been trying to figure out how to study, and with my information they've been retaining so well that they get imposter syndrome sometimes. And so many people tell us to study, but no one gives us practical breakdowns and explanations. And because of me, they're having an easier time than their entire time in high school. So that made me feel really warm and fuzzy on the inside. And if you want the same kind of thing for you, stick around, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and I'm going to get you through your A+. All right, let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to skip the rest of those because you get the picture, right? So the first thing we need to know about is boot methods. So what does that mean? First of all, boot methods are the different ways a computer can start up and load an operating system installation program. Understanding these methods is essential for IT professionals working in diverse environments where flexibility and efficiency are paramount. So basically, there's different ways to load an operating system, and depending on your setup, how fast you need to do that, what your goals are, you're going to want to choose a different method, and also just based on what's available to you. Okay, so ignore that spelling mistake. I don't know why that happened there. Let's move on. Okay, the first one you need to know about is USB. This one's pretty self-explanatory, right? This basically involves you have your operating system, your bootable OS on a USB flash drive, and that holds the operating system's installation programs. Once created with specific software, the drive you just plug it into your computer, and then you can start that installation process from the USB stick. Okay, it is versatile, it's convenient. All right, so they're portable, reusable, and perfect for field installation. So if you have to go out to a site and install something, just take it on a USB stick. That's pretty easy, pretty simple, right? You can do that with pretty much any device, and you don't need a complicated internet-based setup to do that. Just put it on a USB stick. So in a case where you need simple, quick, effective installation, maybe you need to go out to site and do it, you might be looking at a USB stick-based OS installation. The next one is a network boot, also known as a PXE. The PXE is pronounced PXE. So what this means, right, is we're installing an operating system without any physical media, not a drive, not a USB stick. The computer can still boot across a local network. They don't need a physical drive. You can boot across a local network using a feature known as PXE. What that stands for is Pre-Boot Execution Environment. Let's break that down, right? Before we keep reading. So what that means is you don't need physical drive or a USB stick. You can access a PXE server, but the catch is it has to be on the local network, right? So it's not an internet-based installation, it's on a local network. Locally, you have a PXE server on your same network. If we can already start to think about when we might use this, this isn't going to be something you do like if you're at home, right? This is going to be something that's generally done in an enterprise-based environment because you're going to need that PXE server on your same network. So already we're thinking kind of business, enterprise type setup. Now, the computer's built-in startup program, the BIOS, we've talked about that, searches the network for a PXE server, and when they find it, that OS installation program to the computer is provided as if it were directly connected to a drive. So the PXE server is basically designed to install operating systems over that local network. That is something you can do, okay? Now, solid state and flash drives, this is a separate kind of sub-dot point I need to cover as well, but basically, right, you can put the operating system on a solid state drive, on an SSD, on a flash drive, and do it that way, just like when we talked about USB sticks, okay? Same thing, it's just a slightly different variety, all right? Now, internet-based installation. Unlike the Pixie one, this is an internet based. So this is actually over the internet, not on your local network, but over the internet. You can do this as well. Some computer systems and operating systems offer the ability to boot and install the operating system directly by downloading necessary files from the internet. So some considerations: you need a stable internet connection. That's the biggest one, really. So if you don't have a stable internet connection, you're not going to be able to do this, but you can often do it over the internet. And this is great if you don't want to worry about using physical media, because then you don't have to worry about holding on to anything or losing anything or taking anything in your pocket. You can just do it over the internet, but you do need that stable connection to do that. Also, external/hot swappable drive. Again, not much to this one. It's just like the USB stick, but instead of a USB, it is an external hard drive of some sort. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Okay, that's pretty much it. You've got the OS ready to go on a drive. Hot swappable just means you can plug it in, unplug it without powering off the whole system. Okay, you can easily install it and then move on to the next system. That's pretty much it. Not much more to talk about there, really. Internal hard drive partition boot. Now, what this means is, right, we're going to get into what partitioning means shortly. Basically, when you're partitioning something, you're breaking up your drive into segments. And what this means here is one of those segments is designed with a bootable OS. So if I have my hard drive here, I might cut out a little slice of this pie, and this slice of that pie is where I host my bootable OS on that partition. Okay, so OS installation files can be placed on a dedicated section or partition of the computer's internal storage drive. The system can then be configured to boot directly from that partition. Okay, so that's pretty much what that means. And the method is particularly useful for system recovery and maintenance scenarios because you have that always there on that drive. It's always ready to go. If something goes wrong, don't worry, you've got a partition ready to go. You can just immediately go from that partition on your hard drive. You don't have to go and try to find the USB stick or go to the Pixie server. No, just you've already got a partition on your hard drive there ready to go. All right. Now, the next one and the last one we need to know about is a multi-boot. Now, just like with partitioning, here you might have multiple operating systems ready to be booted on your device at the same time. So sometimes you might need to boot up your Windows OS. Sometimes you might need to boot up a Mac, and sometimes you might need to boot up Linux. You can actually have multiple operating system files ready to go, and you can choose which one you want at the very beginning. The details of that, you don't need to know much more than that. What you need to know is if you have a user who might need to boot up a wide variety of different operating systems, they can have a multi-boot setup. All right, which is where a single computer has more than one operating system installed on it. Okay, so that's multi-boot, and we can imagine when we might want to use that. So with that being said, here's a brief summary of everything we went through, but I'm going to give you a question or two about this topic right now. So your first question reads, which boot method is described as using a dedicated section of the internal storage drive to store operating system installation files and then booting from that section? Is it A, multi-boot? Is it B, network? Is it C, internal hard drive partition? Or is it D, universal serial bus or USB? Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, in 2, here we go, in 1. This is it. Let's go. Your answer is C, internal hard drive partition. So it said that it was on a dedicated section of the internal storage drive. That is describing exactly what it means to have a partition. It is a section of that storage drive ready to go. We know multi-boot is when you have multiple operating systems installed and ready to go, and you can choose which one you want to boot from. We know network is when you are booting over a local network from a server, usually with a Pixie server, right, as we discussed, and then USB would be a USB stick. Okay, so hopefully we got that one right. Now, the next question reads, a technician needs to install an operating system on several different computers using a single portable drive containing an installation image. Which type of drive and boot method would be most effective? Is it A, internet-based? Is it B, external/hot swappable drive? Is it C, internal hard drive partition? Or is it D, multi-boot? Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, in 2. This is it. I'm about to give you the answer in 1. Please pause the video if you need more time. Let's do it. It is B, external/hot swappable drive. So guys, if you have a drive and you're portably going from one device to another device, right, that's going to be a drive. The other one simply could not be the correct answer. Internet-based, nothing to do with a drive. You're doing it over the internet. Internal hard drive, it is a drive, but it's internal on the computer. That's not portable. It's installed inside your computer. Multiboot describes a scenario where you've got more than one OS installed and ready to go, whereas this one was describing a drive that you can take from one to another quickly, efficiently, effectively. All right, hopefully we wrapped our heads around that. Now, guys, I just want to emphasize, these are just a few questions for this dot point. In my learning guide, I have like a question that attacks this particular topic from every single angle. So I've got questions that cover all of the options. I've just given a couple here. So don't do this and think you're completely good to go. Make sure you really study this and don't just rely on these two questions, because you could get attacked from multiple different angles here. Now, the next thing we need to know about is the different types of installations. So there's different types and different ways you can actually install our operating system depending on your goals. We need to know about the difference between these different types. So each method serves a different purpose, whether you're starting all the way from fresh, scratching everything, starting again, whether you're updating your system or whether you're setting up more than one computer at once will dictate which one you want to go with. And we'll talk about how we make that decision now. So the first thing you need to know about is a clean installation. So this is like you're starting from scratch, you're starting from fresh, you're wiping all data, you're wiping everything, and you're reinstalling it. So everything you have there is going to be gone, okay? You're going to have an operating system installed from scratch. You're going to have no old files or settings remain after a clean install. It gets rid of everything. The next thing we need to know is an in-place upgrade. So this is like your computer already has a working operating system. An in-place upgrade lets you install a newer version. So it's like you're updating it. You're installing a newer version, but you're keeping all your applications, all your files, all your personal data, okay? So you're updating the OS, but you keep all of your data and applications. So you don't have to worry about your system changing, okay? Really, that's the main difference between those two. One, wipes everything, starts from scratch. Two, updates it to the next newest version or a future version, but it keeps all of your data and applications ready to go as they work. You can also do an image deployment. So this is where you create what's called an image of an operating system. So you configure one computer perfectly with the operating system and applications, and then you do something that's called creating an image, which is where basically you save that exact setup and you can copy that. You can then take that image and install that exact version and type of that operating system on multiple computers. So instead of having to install the operating system and then download all the applications and then set up everything, no, you can just say, hey, I'm going to install this image, which already has everything ready to go, okay? Now, if you're an organization that needs to set up many computers identically, exactly the same, this is what's called an image deployment, and this is when you would want to be doing this, okay, in that scenario. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, there's also a remote network installation, which is basically when you install an operating system on a computer without actually having to physically be there. So you might log into that computer and install the OS from a distance. So that's going to be like an enterprise environment type thing, essentially. So you are pulling the necessary files over the network and beginning the installation without having to be in the physical room. You know, your IT guy in the office is going to be doing that. And sometimes they can do that to multiple devices at the same time, all from the comfort of their own office. That's pretty much what you need to know. Now, the next one you need to know about is zero-touch deployment. And this is actually like really advanced. So this is basically when in a large organization, generally, you're going to have a pre-configured script that handles the entire operating system process, the entire installation process, including everything that you need to happen. And even better, this happens as soon as the user turns on a new laptop and it configures itself. So the user opens up the new laptop, immediately the script starts running, it starts installing everything. It's called zero touch because you don't really have to do much. Once you've got that script set up, the laptop opens, it does it. You've done all the work on the front end. Now you don't really have to worry about it so much, okay? The final one is a recovery partition. So this is where you have a small slice of the pie, a small partition on your drive that is designed to be a recovery partition. What is a recovery partition? Well, it stores all the necessary operating system installation files, acting as a built-in rescue kit. So if something goes wrong, you need to troubleshoot or reinstall the operating system without any external media right now, you can just go to that recovery partition of your hard drive and reinstall that OS from there. All right, so that's what a recovery partition is. You're trying to do a recovery, a rescue mission. And then a repair installation. So this is specifically for Windows. A repair installation allows you to reinstall the operating system's core files over an existing setup without deleting your personal files and documents. So this is typically done to fix major problems with the OS that can't be resolved otherwise, essentially overwriting system files whilst preserving user data. So a Windows repair installation kind of reinstalls your operating system, but keeps your system, your data and your applications in place, okay? Now, one thing we need to note as well is third-party drivers. We can get third-party drivers. Maybe you install some software or you buy a specific piece of hardware. Sometimes the operating system's default installation program might not recognize all the specialized hardware in your computer. So you might have a storage device or network connection. In these situations, you might be prompted during the installation to load additional third-party drivers. It might detect that for you and prompt you to actually load those in. And that's just software provided by the hardware manufacturer. That's not provided by like Windows or Mac, for example, to ensure the OS can properly communicate with and use that hardware. So in order to use hardware, you need a driver. Sometimes you might need to install a third-party driver. That's what we need to know, really. There's a summary of everything we've talked about, but guys, I'm going to give you a question on this now, question or two. Let's get into those questions. The first one reads, which method is the most efficient to quickly install a pre-configured operating system on multiple computers for a business upon the machine's startup? Is it A, a repair installation, B, image deployment, C, zero-touch deployment, or D, recovery partition? Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer is coming in 3, in 2, in 1. Here we go. It is C, zero touch deployment. Before we read that, guys, let's talk about why. Let's go through this together. Okay, we know it is going to be pre-configured. So someone's done some work on the front end. They've done work once. It's pre-configured. It's ready to go. Already, we should be starting to think it's probably either going to be image deployment or zero touch deployment. It's being installed on multiple computers for a business upon the machine startup. So it's being installed on more than one computer. It's pre-configured. Image deployment is pre-configured and you use that to install it on more than one computer. Zero touch deployment is also pre-configured, used to install on more than one computer. So now the only differentiating factor is it's upon the machine startup. The only one that automatically starts to install upon the machine startup is zero touch deployment, because it's the one that runs that automatic script. So you can read that here. If you're a little confused, you can read the explanation, but that's pretty much the answer and why that's the answer. Excuse me. The next question reads, if a computer has a major problem with its operating system, but the user wants to fix it without losing their personal documents, which Windows-specific method would be the most appropriate? Is it A, an in-place upgrade? Is it B, a clean installation? C, a repair installation? D, remote network installation? I'm going to take a sip of my coffee and then I'm going to go to the answer. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Pause the video if you need to. Here we go. The answer is C, a repair installation. That one's pretty intuitive, right? We shouldn't really have to talk about that too much, but we'll just go over these ones again. Repair is your reinstalling the main operating system files without affecting user data, which is what we wanted to do here. In place is your kind of upgrading to a newer version while keeping your files and applications. So the difference here is repair is you're reinstalling the same OS, whereas in place is generally you're upgrading to a newer version. That's the key detail there. Clean install, you're wiping everything. Okay, we didn't want to do that here. Remote network installation, there was nothing here in this question talking about a remote network installation over the network, was not mentioned, so that should not be the answer. There's no reason to think that's the answer. Okay. Partitioning. What is it? What do we need to know about it? So, what is partitioning? We've already talked about it a little bit here and there, but let's get specific and let's do it intentionally. So, when preparing a storage drive for an operating system, you first need to divide it into logical sections. What does that mean? That means I've got my drive here and I'm just going to divide it into sections. So I might say, hey, this section is for this. This section is for this. This section is for this, right? And I'm putting specific things on specific parts or partitions of that drive. This process is called partitioning. So you're thinking of your hard drive as a large empty closet. Partitioning is like adding shelves or dividers. So you're just organizing that drive, okay? Now, that's what partitioning is, really. We need to know about two different specific type of partitioning styles here, okay? There's two we need to know about. One is older and has some limitations. One is newer and is really just a little bit better. So the first one is GPT or GUID partition table. And this is a modern partitioning style, most commonly used with newer operating systems. GPT, which stands for Globally Unique Identifier Partition Table, requires a UEFI BIOS. We talked about that in the 1201, right? You've got your BIOS and then you've got your UEFI BIOS, which is the more modern version, on your computer. Its main advantages are supporting a massive number of partitions, so it can have up to 128 and handling extremely large drive sizes. That's already, I can kind of stop there. That should be enough. You can read the rest here, but that should be enough, right? Basically, the GPT is the modern one that can support a lot of partitions that are very high in size, okay, very large sizes. Compare that to the MBR, or the master boot record, which is considered a legacy partitioning style. And the reason for that is basically it can only support a maximum partition size of 2 terabytes. Okay, huge limitation there. So that's why generally we want to be going for the GPT. Most people are going for the GPT. If you get a question, your main thing you're going to have to differentiate between is which one is better for that particular circumstance. The only reason you'd really use MBR is if you had an older device that just was not compatible with GPT and for some reason you had to use that device. Otherwise, you'd really want to make sure my light's turned off. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. They're on a timer. They do that sometimes. You'd really want to make sure you're using GPT just because it is the modern one. It's the most capable one. It's the better one for the reasons I outlined there. All right. Now, that's an overview of everything we talked about. Not going to go over it again. Pause and read if you want to. Let's get into a question. The question reads, which partitioning style would you use for a brand new computer with a modern UEFI BIOS and a 4 terabyte hard drive, where you want to create multiple partitions to store different operating systems and have a dedicated partition for large media files? Would you use A, master boot record or MBR? Would you use B, GUID partition table or GPT? Would you use C, extended partition, or D, a logical partition? Pause the video if you need more time. I really hope you don't. We just talked about it. The answer coming in 3, in 2, in 1. Here we go. It is B, GPT, GUID partition table, because that is a modern one that can handle much larger sizes and offers more partitions. All right. The other answer is MBR is the older one with a 2 terabyte limit. We don't want to choose that. The other two were kind of like red herrings, kind of distractions. So read those if you want, but the answer was GPT. Now, a drive format. What does this mean and what are the types we need to know about? Before we can install any data or an operating system or anything really on a drive, we do need to format it. So what does formatting it mean? Formatting is basically the process of preparing a storage area for use by an operating system, which includes setting the chosen file system. So when we're formatting a drive, 2 things are going to happen. 1, we're pretty much going to wipe all data on that drive in some regard. And 2, we're going to set it to work with a specific type of file system. So you can think back to the last exam objective where we talked about the different file types. When we're formatting a drive, we might choose ext4, or we might choose exFAT, or we might choose NTFS, right? Depending on how we want to use it. The formatting process is where we choose how to do this. So roughly that's what formatting is, okay? But there's different types of formatting depending on what our goals are. The first one is a quick format. So this is very fast, very effective, very efficient way to prepare a drive. It primarily involves setting up the file table. It's kind of like creating an empty table of contents for the drive, making it look like it's empty and ready for new data, but in reality, it doesn't actually completely erase the old data. It just marks that space as available. From a security standpoint, this means that old data might still be recoverable. So if someone gets their hands on your drive, they can still kind of do some little tricks to access that data that looks like it's gone, but is actually still there. So it's quick and effective, but is not the most secure because it still leaves some of that remnant data behind. It's the default setting for recent Windows installations, whereas a full format is a much more thorough and time-consuming process. So it's higher security, takes more time. It writes zeros across the entire storage area, overwriting all previous data. So all previous data is gone. So any old data is much harder, if not impossible to recover, offering a more secure erasure. So it takes longer time, but it's better for security. So depending on what you want to do here, you'd want to choose the right one. Now, particularly, look, if you might get some questions in your exam that says like, hey, Bill wants to donate his hard drives to this place. What should he do? What type of formatting should he do? You're pretty much always going to want to choose full format because you don't want anyone else accessing your data. But you might get a question where it says, hey, Julie wants to let her colleague borrow her drive who is at the desk next to her, and she doesn't have any important details and she needs her colleague to borrow it and leave the office with it in the next 5 minutes, then probably quick format, right? So you make that decision based on the requirements that you're given. All right, there's what we talked about. Here's a question on it. A user is selling their old computer and wants to make sure that none of their personal data can be recovered by the new owner. They are preparing to format the hard drive before handing it over. Which formatting method should they choose to ensure the most secure data erasure? A quick format, B, a full format, C, a clean installation, or D, partitioning. Pause the video if you need more time. Please, for the love of God, pause the video. Don't just skip ahead. Answer coming in 3, in 2, in 1. It is B, full format. Hopefully we got that one right, guys. So the full format erases everything, very secure, takes a little longer. The quick format, not very secure, but it's very quick, very fast, very efficient. The other two are red herrings. They got nothing to do with the question, really. All right. Finally, we're moving on to upgrade considerations, the second last dot point for this one, I believe. So some things we just need to make sure we do before we upgrade. Back up your files and user preferences. In case they get lost in the process, you can go back and they're safe and you can still reinstall them later on. Okay, back it up before you do installation, always. That's pretty much it. Application and driver support, you do want to confirm that your current software applications that you have before you update or change operating system, you want to make sure they're compatible. That's pretty much what this boils down to. Nothing more to it than that. Pretty self-explanatory. And you want to make sure that your hardware is able to run the new operating system. So for example, if you want to run Windows 11, you need to make sure, and you do need to know this for your exam, you might get a question that specifies this, you do need to make sure that your system has a TPM 2.0, which is a trusted platform module. If you've done your 1201, that should ring some bells. I'm not going to go through exactly what that is, but you need to know that you need a TPM 2.0 and a UEFI BIOS with Secure Boot enabled for Windows 11. If you don't have that, don't even try to install it because it's not going to work. So the general concept here is you want to make sure that your system's hardware can support the operating system you want to install before you try to install it, or you're going to have problems. And specifically for your exam, Windows 11 needs to have TPM 2.0 and UEFI BIOS with Secure Boot enabled there. Okay, that's what you need to know. Now, that's a summary, but we're going to move on because it's pretty intuitive, really. Now, the final dot point here is feature updates, understanding the life cycle and delivery of operating system enhancements. We talked about this really already, but it's popping up here again. What is a feature update? A feature update is a big upgrade for your operating system that brings a lot of new features and capabilities. So, they'll roll out these updates that might bring new features, might bring new capabilities, some cool new stuff you can do, some cool things that the operating system is going to do now that it didn't do before. That's pretty much it. So when you get a feature update, that's what you can expect. But you need to be aware of the product life cycle, which is a timeline from the operating system maker telling you how long their OS will get support. Because as we talked about in the last exam objective, when the life cycle is over, that essentially means that you're not going to get that support and you will no longer get updates, you will no longer have bug fixes, and you will be left vulnerable to security vulnerabilities because they won't be being patched. All right, that's what you need to be aware of. So look, guys, final question here before I'm going to send you off to the next exam objective. This question reads, a small business owner is still using an operating system that was released 4 years ago. Their computers have not received any new features in over 2 years, and they recently learned that a new critical security vulnerability was discovered. Despite the threat, they have not received any patches or fixes. Based on the provided information, what is the most likely reason for this situation? Is it A, the computers are still receiving feature updates but not security fixes? Is it B, the operating system's product lifecycle has ended and it is no longer supported with security updates? Is it C, the owner's internet connection is too slow to download the necessary security updates? Or is it D, the computers are running a pirated version of the operating system that is not eligible for updates? Pause the video if you need more time. I really hope you don't. Your answer coming in 3, in 2, in 1. Here we go. It is B. The operating system's product lifecycle has ended and they're not getting security updates. Very simple, very easy question, guys. These questions are going to be a little bit easy for you for 2 reasons. One, I'm providing the question to you directly after the content, so it's fresh in your memory. The reason I do that is because it's been shown in the literature that if you test yourself straight away, it helps you solidify that information more effectively and efficiently. So that way, when you go to take your practice exams later on, that information is going to be more readily accessible instead of you having like forgotten it and having to go back and restudy all over again. So if it's seeming easy, trust me, there's a process to it. And you also have to think about the fact that you've just intaken this information. So imagine this question now on a randomized practice exam where you didn't just cover this, might be a little bit more difficult. All right. So with that being said, the reason I'm doing it like that is because on my learning guide, I give you pretty much everything you need. It's all broken down by exam objective. And then I give you randomized practice exams as well, performance-based question, simulations, everything you need. And this is what people are saying about how I've helped them pass their exams with my resources. This person says that my courses have helped them pass their A+. This person says that I've helped them move on to their core 2 from their core 1. This person actually sent me an email, and they said in their lovely email that they're glad they found my channel because basically I've helped them study and I helped them intake information so well that they feel like they have imposter syndrome, and I've helped them more than their entire time in high school. That email has given me a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings on the inside. So if you want this stuff for you, just stick with me and subscribe to my channel. And if you want, you can grab my learning guide, which will be in the link in the description and pinned comment below. This person says my learning guide is goated, and that it has helped them with organized information and helps them piece things together more easily. This person says that they downloaded my learning guide, and as soon as they downloaded it, they could see that it would help them immensely with studying. They've tried other popular resources, but struggled absorbing the material. And this person says that my notes definitely helped them pass their test. This one says they're moving on to their Network Plus. This one says they're moving on to their Core 2 after the Core 1. So guys, if you want to grab my learning guide, it is in the description and pinned comment below. You get notes and practice questions all broken down by exam objective. You get 3 practice exams. You get a video showing you how to study with multiple choice questions. You get a video showing you how to use free AI tools to 10 times your learning, and some specific study practices you can do. I'm losing my voice, guys, losing my voice. You get a video on how to ace multiple choice questions. So you get all of that over at journeytocyber.com/1202. Go ahead and check it out, or check out the link in the description or pinned comment below. With that being said, guys, I'm going to leave you there, and I will see you in exam objective 1.3. I truly cannot wait. Bye, guys.